How much does a surf trip to Portugal cost? In this video, I'm gonna give you a budget guide for surfers who consider traveling to Portugal, complete breakdown of expenses on flights, accommodation, transport, and other surf-related things. Hi Tigers, I'm Carolina Vaughan. I'm here in Portugal for 2 months. In my last video, I shared 10 surf spots to check out in Portugal if you're going on a surf trip here. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about budget and costs. Let's start with the flights. So there are a bunch of different airlines that offer flights from the US to Portugal. And this is the estimate depending on the city. Just make sure to check different cities in Portugal. And here I compared costs of a return trip like Lisbon to LA and back, and Porto to LA and back. The price is different, so make sure you try to check different cities in Portugal where you can fly. As for my experience, I took a flight from TAP Portugal last year, a direct one Lisbon to San Francisco. That was the cheapest option at that time. What I really loved about that flight is that it was direct. It was during the daytime. Another thing that I loved about TAP Portugal is that they accepted my huge gun board free of charge. I just checked their website for the rules of bringing a surf bag, and they say that under certain limits it's free of charge. I tried to check information for other airlines like Delta, United, and it's not very easy to find this. So my general advice would be always call or contact the airlines to ask about your specific direction and flight, if you need to pay extra for the surfboard, and what are the limits, the size of bag that is allowed on board. And I also found a list, I will put the link in the description box below, from Surfline, but it's very outdated, about the fees for board bags for different airlines. If you know or have any details about newer lists about board bag prices for different airlines, please share it in the comments. TAP Portugal was literally the only airline that allowed me to bring a 9/6 gun board free of charge, but also such a huge board, which was around 3 meters long. Most of the airlines do not allow this size of a surfboard, and I had so much trouble sending it separately as a cargo in Mexico. As an alternative option of renting something here, I'm not quite aware of any rental possibilities for short boards or even mid-sized boards. So my way would be always to bring your own stuff. And if you're just starting to surf, or you wanted to make it your first surf trip and try surfing for the first time, the surf rental for a soft top beginner board would be around 30 euro per day. I would probably recommend hiring it with a coach, because 30 euro per day is also like a standard price for a surf lesson with a coach. If you're looking to try surfing for the very first time in your life, I'd highly recommend Nazaré Surf School. I think it's one of the best schools here in Nazaré, where I live. And if you're here in Nazaré and want to try surfing, check them out. The next thing, accommodation. Of course, it really depends on what you want and also on the season. I think generally during the summer, the demand is higher for flights too, so flights for the summer may be more expensive. So one recommendation for the summer would be to look for accommodation and book a very long time ahead. So plan everything in advance, because it may be very difficult to book something closer to the date, especially during the most touristy popular months like August, when everyone is off and take their leave and travel. For the fall and winter season, I checked the prices online to give you an estimate. For one of the most popular areas for tourists, Peniche, is good for intermediate and expert surfers. So on Airbnb, a private room would start from 80 euro per day, so that would be around 125 per week plus the commission. And if you want something private, like the whole place for yourself, like a small house or an apartment, that would start from 53 euro per night, so 316 per week plus the commission. And also, if you check on Booking, there are a lot of options for around 100 per week. For other daily expenses like transportation, food. So I did some research online, and they say that the average for a meal in Portugal would be 7 to 13 euro, and I think it matches my experience. So the food here is not expensive. For groceries, it would be around 50 to 70 euro for groceries for a week. Eating out would be 30 to 50 euro for 2 people, a lunch or dinner. And I think it's like a fancy option. You can definitely find stuff cheaper. As for transport, there is Uber here, but for sure, if you want to go surfing, you'll probably need to rent a car. And the situation here with renting a car is so much worse than for example, like in the States. I'm a great fan of Turo. Let me know in the comments if you ever use them or not, but I always only rent cars on Turo. I have had the best experience over the last like literally 10 years. I started to use this when it just opened like 10 years ago. I think it was the first time I went to New York City, and comparing to other car rental options, like, I don't know, popular companies like Avis or Hertz or Sixt, whatever else. It was such a great difference, like choosing the exact car, the model, the brand, the year, and like, yeah, it's just so much better. I'm like a great fan of muscle cars, and I only rent muscle cars on Turo. I really hate European cars. I don't think I would by any chance prefer any European car to say a Dodge. Like, is there a car better than Dodge? Leave your feedback in the comment if you agree or not, if you think that BMW or like Mercedes or whatever else, like other overrated European brands, can compare to muscle cars. So coming back to prices here, it's so much more expensive. It starts from 45 euro per day for a manual car. One thing I highly recommend for you is renting a car straight away in the nearest big city that you arrive. For example, if you arrive to Lisbon, you can rent a car straight at the airport or in the city center in one of the offices, because it is cheaper than renting a car in like other areas. For example, when I first arrived to Portugal last year and I came to stay to Nazaré, and I didn't rent a car straight away in Lisbon. I didn't have time to plan, and I always book everything last minute. So I arrived to Nazaré. All the car rental options that I found close to here were so much more expensive than the ones in Lisbon. So after driving automatic for like 15 years, here I'm driving a manual one. Luckily I have a license and I had some experience, so it's okay. But I am completely not happy about it. So let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about surfing or traveling in Portugal. I'll make sure to cover them in my next videos. I hope this video was useful for you, and check out the other one about 10 surf spots in Portugal.